everyone, welcome to Ask an Armourer. My name's Kia and today I'm going to be showing you how to diagnose an epee that is a light constantly on. Now please note that this list will not be exhaustive but should cover the root cause of this issue in about 90 to 95% of cases, but there are always going to be unique cases that exist that you may have to look a little bit closer for. So as you may recall from my video on how an epee works, the tip button functions as a very basic switch on this circuit. Basically, if the tip button is up, that means that the switch is open, and therefore the circuit is not complete and the light doesn't come on. As soon as the button is depressed, though, that switch closes, the circuit is completed, and a light should come on. So we'll use this knowledge to basically inform how we look for a root cause. Basically, if the light is constantly on, it is in the state where it thinks the circuit is constantly completed. So we can look for areas that is the case. Before we begin, please note that I am assuming you've already isolated the issue is in the epee somewhere and not anywhere else in the circuit, so it's not in the body cord or the reel, anything like that. And then if that's the case, all you're going to need is the epee in question, a body cord that you know works, and a test box. I'm going to use this older one from Absolute, but any of them should work so long as you're comfortable with it. Now, for all of my diagnostics, I start at the tip and work my way down the blade to end near the handle. This is just my personal method so that I know I have not accidentally skipped anything and therefore inadvertently missed a possible cause that I just didn't see. So you're welcome to use the same methodology or follow one that works for you. So to begin, starting at the tip, the first thing I'm going to look for is to see if the tip button has gotten jammed down somehow. There's a whole lot of reasons why this could be. It could be that the screw holes have gotten warped and therefore the screws are jammed down. It could be the barrel itself has gotten warped and therefore is holding on to the tip. There's a whole lot of reasons. But basically, if that's the case, I know I have to do something to either clean out, remount, or reround the barrel as something in there is holding this tip in place. In a worst case scenario, I may have to rewire the entire epee just to replace the barrel, as unfortunately there's not really a way to replace the barrel without destroying the wire. So I'll look at that first, and what you can possibly do just to get through a bout is to flick the tip of the epee on the ground just to loosen that tip off. And again, maybe that'll get you a couple more touches, enough to finish out a pool bout, but it is a very temporary solution that you'll just need to know to go to the armory bench properly afterwards. So if that's the case, then I will try to loosen off the tip to get it out. And the first thing that could possibly be happening is that there's just a lot of gunk in there. So I'll take a Q-tip and acetone and swab around just to clean that out. And maybe there's something sticky in there that was holding the tip in place. If not, I will take a Rerounder tool that I have that basically is a tool that just has the correct diameter of the inside of the barrel, push it in and gently hammer around it to make sure that the barrel takes on that round shape again. Or if I see something that looks like an actual nick or burr inside, I'll take a reaming tool that cuts away that material and use that inside the barrel. And all of these are just basically making sure that the inside of the barrel actually matches the diameter of the tip button so it can move smoothly. Please keep in mind though that with both reaming and rerounding, you are removing the structural integrity of the barrel. Reaming is taking away material and rerounding is introducing a lot of fatigue into the material. So you have just shortened the life of the barrel, and you should probably keep an eye out for any cracks or damage again. Now, if it is the case that the screw holes have gotten damaged, what you can possibly do is remove the screws and take a very fine file and gently try to reshape the holes. But again, you are now reducing the structural integrity of the barrel, and if you have to do too much, it's probably easier to just rewire the entire thing and get a new barrel that isn't warped and doesn't have structural integrity issues. But that's the first thing that you can look for if your epee just constantly has a light on. If it doesn't seem like that's the problem and the tip button does actually move freely, the next thing I'm going to look at is I'm going to try to twist the barrel. And if I can move it with my hands, this probably means that the insulation inside of there has become damaged. And what is most likely happening is the two wires both have insulation damage, and it's causing them to just be in contact all the time. Meaning that regardless of what the tip button does, the circuit is complete and therefore the light is on. Again, if this is the case, you'll just have to rewire the epee, as there's no way to repair that insulation without doing so. Alright, so those are two of the sort of external tip things that I look at, and if neither of those seem to be the issue, the tip's moving fine and the barrel feels secure, what I'm going to do is actually open up the tip to see the inside of the barrel. So again, just remove the screws, take the barrel out and the weight spring. And if you haven't already done so, I would again take a Q-tip and some acetone and swab out the inside of that. Just the natural motion of the button will pull sweat, dust, grit, etc. into the barrel and can cause all sorts of problems. So if this is the case, what might have happened is something metallic has gotten pulled in there and has gotten wedged between the two ends of the wire in the cap and is causing a constant connection there. So cleaning out the tip will hopefully remove that and remove the problem. If this isn't the case though, the next thing I'm going to look at is the contact spring, or the smaller spring that is attached to the end of the tip button. And if the light is on constantly, what could have happened is the spring just may be too long and may be contacting the two wires regardless of if the tip is depressed or not. If this seems to be the case, all you need to do is just turn it back a couple of turns to make sure that it is now no longer touching those caps entirely, or is no longer touching those caps constantly. But be careful on this one. You do want to make sure that you don't back it off so much that now the spring is too short and can't actually reach them. And of course, keep in mind that the epee has to pass the gauge test after all of this, so you need to make sure it is set within those parameters. And finally, you're going to want to look at the contact spring just to make sure that it hasn't become misshapen and maybe contacting things that you don't want it to be contacting. So if the spring is not in a nice straight line and seems like it could potentially be touching the sides of the barrel at all, then you'll want to replace it. There's not really a good way to re-straighten out the spring without risking it immediately resuming that warped position. So all you need to do is just pull it off of the end of the button and pull out a new one and gently thread it on. Again, you'll just have to be careful that when you set it up, you actually get it to a point where it's not just repeating the same problem where it's too long and constantly contacting the wires, it's not too short and not giving you any signal, and that it falls within that gauge test limits. So after all of those tests in the tip, I will go ahead and plug back into my test box and see if the issue is still arising or if any of those have fixed it. If not, it is time to move beyond the tip and look down the blade. Now, I recommend that you have a really good light source for this part, as we are going to be looking for areas that are potentially really small and hard to spot. But basically, I'm just going to start at the tip and work my way down the blade, and I'm going to look for anywhere that I can see some copper shining through the insulation, or the wire has somehow gotten popped out or crossed over itself, as all of those areas will indicate possible causes, and also anything that you see like that will mean that you just need to rewire your epee, as the insulation being compromised again can mean that the circuit is just being completed constantly. So as I look at this one, you can see right here near the tip, the wire shows some copper through it, so I'm going to just have to rewire this epee when I'm done with this. Now, the reason that I say you should also watch for areas where the wires have gotten crossed over each other is because this can cause micro abrasions to happen in the insulation as the epee bends with normal fencing movement. And if this happens, again, this means that both wire insulations are going to be compromised, and therefore the circuit may be completed inadvertently just there. So that's why it's important when you put your epee together and when you're wiring it to make sure that the wires run nice and parallel to each other so they're bending in the same way as opposed to crossing over each other and having to bend slightly more or less than each other. The final thing that I will look at is at the connector, and what I'll look for here is to see if from either pin there is any extra wire sticking out that is touching the other pin, the bell guard, the other parts of the connector, anything like that that could be potentially leading to additional grounding. And if this is the case, it's an easy fix. All you need to do is trim that excess and get it out of there so that it can't cause any more problems, and retest it to see if this is the case. So after all of this, if you still haven't found a reason why your epee is still just giving lights all the time, it may be that there is just somewhere that the insulation has been broken that you can't see very easily, so you might just have to do a rewire. I have linked videos for repairing all of these problems down below. It's a separate playlist, so you can check out that for any of those that you find. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or other topics you'd like me to cover, let me know down below. See you in the next one. Bye.